Okay, part two of attachment. As I wrap up this chapter, we look at, right now we're going to look at measuring the security of attachment. So Mary Ainsworth and her colleagues, this is about 1978, reasoned that securely attached infants and toddlers should use the parent as a secure base from which to explore an unfamiliar playroom. I think of them as, this base, and they can kind of tether the child out. When they feel insecure, they can come back, but the parent is that base. In addition, when the parent leaves, an unfamiliar adult should be less comforting than the parent. In observing some of these like strange situations and different situations through a baby's eyes, researchers identified a secure attachment pattern and 3 patterns of insecurity. First, we have the secure attachment. These infants use the parent as a secure base. When separated, they may or may not cry, but if they do, it is because the parent is absent and they prefer her to the stranger. When the parent returns, they actively seek contact and their crying is reduced. About 60% of North American infants in middle socioeconomic status families show this pattern. In low socioeconomic status families, a smaller portion of babies show the secure pattern, with higher proportions falling into the insecure patterns. So insecure pattern number 1 is avoidant attachment. These infants seem unresponsive to the parent when she is present. When she leaves, they usually are not distressed, and they react to the stranger in much the same way as to the parent. During reunion, they avoid or are slow to greet the parent, and when picked up, they often fail to cling. Now, this is different than a child being like engaged with an activity when a parent comes and them not approaching the parent. It's not like every time the parent enters the room, a child needs to run up and be, like a little puppy dog. But to really not care when the parent leaves and there's someone else, and like every situation is the same, it doesn't matter who the caregiver is, you can see how maybe there's less attachment going on between caregiver and child. The second insecure attachment would be resistant attachment. Before separation, these infants seek closeness to the parent and often fail to explore. When the parent leaves, they are usually distressed, and on her return, they combine clinginess with angry, resistive behavior, struggling when held, and sometimes hitting and pushing. Many continue to cry and cling after being picked up and cannot be comforted easily. About 10% of North American infants in middle socioeconomic status families show this pattern. So when we look at this, there's a lack of emotional intelligence we can kind of see with some of this. They haven't, or emotional development, at least at this point in time, they haven't gotten to the point of being able to really connect with their feelings of what's going on. So we get more of like this clinginess and anger and resistive behavior and struggling when held and just discomfort about the changing situation. Now, one note to make, no matter what your age is, change creates anxiety. Even positive change creates anxiety. We are in a state of change right now in our world. I'm sure many of you are experiencing some elements of anxiety. Now, anxiety across the board isn't necessarily the worst thing. It can be motivating a little bit. It can get you going. For example, I can't see my clients right now. So that little bit of anxiousness about not being able to be in the office and help people and make income and this and that has facilitated me working on more remote work, which might benefit in the long run. So all said and done, anxiety isn't always bad. Change isn't always bad, but change tends to create some anxiousness, positive and negative anxieties. Moving on, the third form of insecure attachment would be disorganized or disoriented attachment. This pattern reflects the greatest insecurity. At reunion, these infants show confused, contradictory behaviors. For example, looking away while the parent is holding them or approaching the parent with flat, depressed emotion. Most display a dazed facial expression, and a few cry out unexpectedly after having calmed down or display odd frozen postures. About 15% of North American infants in middle SES families show this pattern. So there's not a lot of connection that's going on there. There's kind of this distance that seems to be there. They're definitely not as attached to the parent. And there's a ton more information that goes into this for sure. There's cultural elements, there's stability of attachment, and we're going to kind of jump into a couple more points I want to make on this video, where first of all, early availability of a consistent caregiver is a basis for attachment. Look, I'm a very present dad. I try to be home a lot, as much as possible. I don't travel for work. I'm not gone for weeks at a time. And I have a very, very close relationship with my kids. I have some friends that travel for work, don't see their kids as much, and this and that, and they get along great with their kids, but I don't feel like there's that same level of attachment that's necessarily there. An example being when one friend I'm thinking of, when he leaves town, his kids are like, "Bye, I'll see you soon. I love you." They give him hugs. But they're fine. As soon as he gets back, they're still connected to mom, not him as much. Now, me and my wife, we both work. We're both in the house. We trade off duties in and out of the house. And our kids, it was expressed to us last time my wife went to work. She's a hospital worker, so she's still going in. She's essential. And they said, "Oh, I wish you both could just stay home." Both of them were saying that. Why do you guys have to go to work? I want you both here. They want us both there. So that's a major piece with the availability of the consistent caregiver. And that was something that wasn't, me and my wife had to facilitate that over time. Lastly, we have sensitive caregiving, the quality of caregiving. So sensitive caregiving, responding promptly, consistently, and appropriately to infants and holding them tenderly and carefully. This helps promote attachment. Baby talk and holding the child, and whether you're swaddling them or whatever it is, but that closeness. I think I mentioned at the beginning of the semester, skin to skin with mother and child and all those things. I'm going to wrap it up though right here, because I think my 7 minutes is up, and that's about all YouTube lets me download. So I will see you guys next Monday.